the presumable severity of illness. For price list, etc., refer to opposite page. Address all communications to Serial Letter Company, Box, etc., etc. As Stanton finished reading the last solemn business detail, he crumpled up the circular into a little gray wad and pressed his blond head back into the pillows and grinned and grinned. Good enough, he chuckled. If Cornelia won't write to me, there seems to be lots of other congenial souls who will. Cannibals and rodents and kiddies. All the same, he ruminated suddenly, all the same I'll wager that there's an awfully decent little brain working away behind all that red ink and nonsense. Still grinning, he conjured up the vision of some grim-faced spinster subscriber in a desolate country town, starting out at last for the first time in her life with real cheery self-importance, rain or shine, to join the laughing, jostling, deliriously human Saturday night crowd at the village post office. Herself the only person whose expected letter never failed to come. From squirrel or pirate or hopping Hottentot, what did it matter to her? Just the envelope alone was worth the price of the subscription. How the pink-cheeked high school girls elbowed each other to get a peep at the postmark. How the better still, perhaps some hopelessly unpopular man in a dingy city office would go running up the last steps just a little wee bit faster, say the second and fourth Mondays in the month, because of even a bought, made-up letter from Mary Queen of Scots that he knew absolutely without slip or blunder would be waiting there for him, on his dusty, ink-stained desk among all the litter of bills and invoices concerning shoe-leather. Whether Mary Queen of Scots prattled pertly of ancient English politics or whimpered piteously about dull-coloured modern fashions, what did it matter so long as the letter came and smelled of faded fleur-de-lis or of Darnley's tobacco smoke? Altogether pleased by the vividness of both these pictures, Stanton turned quite amiably to his breakfast and gulped down a lukewarm bowl of milk without half his usual complaint. It was almost noon before his troubles commenced again. Then, like a raging hot tide, the pain began in the soft, fleshy soles of his feet, and mounted up inch by inch through the calves of his legs, through his aching thighs, through his tortured back, through his cringing neck, till the whole reeking misery seemed to foam and froth in his brain in an utter frenzy of furious resentment. Again the day dragged by with maddening monotony and loneliness. Again the clock mocked him, and the postman shirked him, and the janitor forgot him. Again the big, black night came crowding down and stung him and smothered him into a countless number of new torments. Again the treacherous morning nap wiped out all traces of the pain and left the doctor still mercilessly obdurate on the subject of an opiate. And Cornelia did not write. Not till the fifth day did a brief little southern note arrive informing him of the ordinary vital truths concerning a comfortable journey and expressing a chaste hope that he would not forget her. Not even surprise, not even curiosity, tempted Stanton to wade twice through the fashionable angular handwriting. Dully impersonal, bleak as the shadow of a brown leaf across a block of gray granite, plainly, unforgivably, written with ink and ink only, the stupid, loveless page slipped from his fingers to the floor. After the long waiting and the fretful impatience of the past few days, there were only two plausible ways in which to treat such a letter. One way was with anger. One way was with amusement. With conscientious effort, Stanton finally summoned a real smile to his lips. Stretching out perilously from his snug bed, he gathered the waste-basket into his arms and commenced to dig in it like a sportive terrier. After a messy minute or two, he successfully excavated the crumpled little gray tissue circular and smoothed it out carefully on his humped-up knees. The expression in his eyes all the time was quite a mixture of mischief and malice and rheumatism. After all, he reasoned out of one corner of his mouth, after all, perhaps I have misjudged Cornelia. Maybe it's only that she really doesn't know just what a love letter ought to be like. Then, with a slubbering fountain pen and a few exclamations, he proceeded to write out a rather large check and a very small note. To the Serial Letter Company, he addressed himself brazenly. For the enclosed check, which you will notice doubles the amount of your advertised price, kindly enter my name for a 6 weeks' special edition deluxe subscription to one of your love letter serials. Any old ardor that comes most convenient. Approximate age of victim, 32. Business status, rubber broker. Prevalent tastes, to be able to sit up and eat and drink and smoke and go to the office the way other fellows do. Nature of illness, the meanest kind of rheumatism. Kindly deliver said letters as early and often as possible. Very truly yours, etc. Sorrowfully then for a moment he studied the depleted balance in his checkbook. Of course, he argued, not unguiltily, of course that check was just the amount that I was planning to spend on a turquoise-studded belt for Cornelia's birthday. But if Cornelia's brains really need more adorning than does her body, if this special investment, in fact, will mean more to both of us in the long run than a dozen turquoise belts. Big and bland and blonde and beautiful, Cornelia's physical personality loomed up suddenly in his memory, so big in fact, so bland, so blonde, so splendidly beautiful, that he realized abruptly, with a strange little tucked feeling in his heart, that the question of Cornelia's brains had never yet occurred to him. Pushing the thought impatiently aside, he sank back luxuriantly again into his pillows, and grinned without any perceptible effort at all as he planned adroitly how he would paste the serial love letters one by one into the gaudiest looking scrapbook that he could find and present it to Cornelia on her birthday as a textbook for the newly engaged girl. And he hoped and prayed with all his heart that every individual letter would be printed with crimson ink on a violet-scented page, and would fairly reek from date to signature with all the joyous, ecstatic silliness that graces either an old-fashioned novel or a modern breach of promise suit. So, quite worn out at last with all this unwonted excitement, he drowsed off to sleep for as long as 10 minutes, and dreamed that he was a bigamist. The next day and the next night were stale and mean and musty with a drizzling winter rain, but the following morning crashed inconsiderately into the world's limp face like a snowball spiked with icicles. Gasping for breath and crunching for foothold, the sidewalk people breasted the gritty cold. Puckered with chills and goose-flesh, the fireside people huddled and sneezed around their respective hearths. Shivering like the ague between his cotton flannel blankets, Stanton's courage fairly raced the mercury in its downward course. By noon his teeth were chattering like a mouthful of cracked ice. By night the sob in his thirsty throat was like a lump of salt and snow. But nothing outdoors or in from morning till night was half as wretchedly cold and clammy as the rapidly congealing hot water bottle that slopped and gurgled between his aching shoulders. It was just after supper when a messenger boy blurted in from the frigid hall with a great gust of cold and a long pasteboard box and a letter. Frowning with perplexity, Stanton's clumsy fingers finally dislodged from the box a big, soft blanket wrapper, with an astonishingly strange, blurry pattern of green and red, against a somber background of rusty black. With increasing amazement, he picked up the accompanying letter and scanned it hastily. Dear lad, the letter began quite intimately, but it was not signed Cornelia. It was signed Molly. End of chapter 1.